Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, the Kennewick Housing Authority, also known as KHA, is temporarily conducting video briefings in order to provide you with the information needed to be a successful participant in the Section 8 HCV program. Throughout this video, I encourage you to take notes and write down any questions you may have. You will be able to address your questions and concerns with your assigned housing specialist at a later date, either via telephone or email. Caseloads are assigned alphabetically by last name. A through ELL, Melissa Haskell. ELM through LY, Lori Bailey. MA through PI, Maritza Guayo. PL through Z, Fernanda Duran. FSS, Hillary Els. This video is a temporary tool KHA is using during the COVID-19 outbreak. Don't forget to take notes and write down all your questions. Housing Choice Voucher Briefing Evaluation Form. This will be filled out at the end of the briefing and given to your housing specialist at a later date. Next is the Housing Choice Voucher Briefing Checklist. This is a list of all of the information you will be receiving in your briefing packet. You need to print your name at the top, sign and date, and turn it into your housing specialist at a later date. Next is the intent to vacate notice. If you are a participant in Sunny Slopes, Mitchell Manor, Delafield, or Keewaydin, you need to give your 30-day notice to your case manager before you start actively looking and become a participant of the Section 8 program. If you do not give your 30-day notice, then we will not be able to move forward with your assistance with Section 8.
I am presenting the family obligations. A. Supplying required information. The family must supply any information that the KHA or HUD determines is necessary in the administration of the program, including submission of required evidence of citizenship or eligible immigration status. Information includes any requested certification, release, or other documentation. The family must supply any information requested by the KHA or HUD for use in regularly scheduled reexamination or interim reexamination of family income and composition in accordance with HUD requirements. The family must report any changes in the household income, expenses, and composition in writing within 12 business days of the date of change. Currently, because our office is closed to the public, you can find the change of circumstance on our website at kennewickha.org. Changes must be reported by the 20th of the month for the change to be effective the 1st of the month following that in which the change is reported. If a decrease is reported after the 20th of the month, the decrease in tenant rent will be effective the 1st of the month following the upcoming month. The example is if you report it on July 25th, the decrease will not be effective until September 1st. Any information supplied by the family must be true and complete. If a family misses a scheduled appointment with the KHA will automatically reschedule. If a family misses 2 appointments, they will be subject to termination. So please do not miss any appointments. B. HQS. This is the inspection part. A. The family is responsible for an HQS breach caused by the family. For example, if the garbage is littered all over the floor, that is a breach caused by the family. B. The family must allow the KHA to inspect the unit at reasonable times and after reasonable notice. KHA defines reasonable notice as 48 hours in non-emergent cases. C. Violation of the lease. The family may not commit any serious or repeated violation of the lease. Non-payment of rent is considered a serious lease violation. Please keep in mind, if we're ever informed that your utilities have been turned off, we do not have a choice. That is an automatic termination. C. Participants are responsible for all activities and actions of any guest. If you have a guest that's being rowdy, please ask them to leave. That way you are not endangering your housing assistance. D. Any guests in the unit may not stay longer than 14 consecutive days or no more than 30 cumulative days in any given year. If the lease is more stringent, you have to abide by the lease. G. Family composition. The composition of the assisted family must be approved by the KHA. Any family wishing to add additional members to the lease or the household must obtain KHA written authorization in advance. All persons the age of 18 or older will be required to pass a criminal background check and provide all information necessary to the KHA. They will have to follow the same process that you did in order to receive this briefing. The family must promptly notify the KHA if any family member no longer resides in the unit. J. Criminal activity. The members of the family may not engage in drug-related criminal activity or violent criminal activity or other activity that threatens the right to peaceful enjoyment of the premises. This is your copy of the family obligations. Once you lease up, you will sign this document.
The next paper in your packet that we will be reviewing is called What You Should Know About EIV. The EIV Enterprise Verification System through HUD. The EIV is used to confirm your name, date of birth, and all income that you are receiving from all sources. It confirms your participation in only one HUD rental assistance program. The EIV will alert the Housing Authority new hire information, use of false Social Security numbers, and any unreported income. You must report and disclose complete and accurate information to the Housing Authority at all times. Providing false, inaccurate, or incomplete information is fraud and crime, which may result in eviction, termination of assistance, entering into repayment if income is not reported correctly, prohibit you from future assistance in housing for up to 10 years, and lead to possible jail time and fines up to $10,000. You will review this form, read through it, and you will be required to sign this form at the lease up of your new unit. The next form that we will be going over is called Section 8 Housing Voucher Program and how it works. We'll be going through this form step by step. Once the applicant is offered rental assistance, they will attend the mandatory briefing, what you are doing now. At the time, they will be issued a Section 8 housing voucher. The voucher holder will search for a unit. The landlord will perform their own screening process. The voucher holder and the landlord will complete what we call the request for tenancy approval, which is also referred to as the RFTA. The voucher holder will return the completed request for the tenancy approval to the Kennewick Housing Authority office. The Housing Authority specialist will review and see if the unit is affordable for you. Once the unit passes the Housing Authority's inspection, you'll be able to complete the lease with the landlord. We require a copy of the lease to be brought to our office. Then you are able to move into the unit once it does pass the inspection. The next form we'll be reviewing is the payment standards for 2020, effective January 1st, 2020. This will show you what the payment standard is for all the unit sizes. Your voucher will have the unit size that you are eligible for on the top of the voucher.
Your housing specialist will be issuing you a KNI for the unit worksheet. It looks like this. The number you want to focus on is on the bottom of the form. It's called the maximum allowable gross rent. With this amount, you'll also have to take into account the utility allowance. The next packet in your briefing packet shows the utility allowance and how we calculate that. You'll want to pay attention to unit type. There's apartment, row house, townhouse, duplex, detached house, and mobile home. You'll also want to pay attention to the city. We have Kennewick, Richland, West Richland, Prosser, and Benton City. So wherever the unit's located, you'll have to pay attention to that city. You'll also have to pay attention to bedroom size. You'll have to go by the bedroom size for what your payment standard is based on. It's 2 beating hearts per bedroom. So if you have a 4-person household, it's going to be a 2-bedroom. If you have a 2-person household, it's going to be a 1-bedroom. This example shows a 1-bedroom. We always calculate electric, and we go by this number here. Then we go by cooking electric, other electric, which is lights and appliances, air conditioning, and for water heating, electric. You'll also have to pay attention if they charge you for water, sewer, garbage. You're going to have to take these amounts into account with your calculation. We also always count the electric charge down here. Once you calculate all of the required utilities, you'll add that up. If you have to pay water, sewer, garbage, you're also going to have to add these with it. Once you have that number, you're going to look at your Can I Afford the Unit worksheet. You're going to take the maximum allowable gross rent and minus the utility allowance amount from this number. That's going to be the maximum proposed rent of the unit that you can rent from. If you have questions regarding this, please ask your housing specialist and we will help you with the calculation. We advise that you ask us prior to filling out the request for tenancy approval so that we can make sure it's affordable for you. This is the HUD Tenancy Addendum. The HUD Tenancy Addendum informs the landlord and the tenant of their required responsibilities regarding the Housing Choice Voucher Program. On all leases, it must state the HUD Tenancy Addendum is an attachment to the lease.
This is an example of your Housing Choice Voucher Program voucher. Right here, it'll show you where your unit size is, the issue date, the expiration date, and it is good for 60 days. You're able to request a 30-day extension to your voucher if it comes close to the expiration date and you have not been able to find a unit. Rental contact list. Please complete this for each time you contact an owner, landlord, leasing agent regarding renting a home or apartment. It is very important that you do this so that the Section 8 Housing Authority staff can help you if you have difficulties finding a place to rent. Please list every contact, even if you are told the unit is already rented. Without this contact list attached to your voucher and your 30-day extension request, we will not be able to extend your voucher any further. Where can I rent a unit? This is a list of all the apartment complexes that are familiar with Kennewick Housing Authority and familiar with the HCV Section 8 program. You can also check apartments.com, Zillow, Craigslist, For Rent, Apartment Finder, and HotPads.
This is the HUD Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing Data and Mapping tool. It also has an article on the advantages of living in an area with low concentrations of poverty, a community information guide, and more maps and statistics. This is the request for tenancy approval, the RFTA. This is the packet that has to be filled out by your landlord after you've been approved by them. The only part you're responsible for filling out is page 2, where it asks for the head of household information. After this packet is turned into our office, the inspector has 15 days to schedule inspection. Please do not sign a lease or move in until the unit has passed inspection. Tenants' new legal protection from discrimination based on source of income. A new state law effective September 30th, 2018 makes it illegal for landlords in Washington state to discriminate against tenants and would-be tenants based on their source of income. Next, we'll be looking at the Section 8 Handbook. On page 2, you will find the table of contents. On page 3, you will find our mission statement. On page 4, it will talk about requesting an extension. You have to request an extension before your voucher expires. If your voucher expires on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or on a holiday, you have to request the extension on the business day before. It has to be made in writing attached with your rental contact list. Occupancy and payment standards are on page 5. Guidelines for determining voucher size. In a 1-bedroom, there can be a minimum of 1 person and a maximum of 4 people. In a 2-bedroom, there can be a minimum of 2 people with a maximum of 3 to 6. In a 3-bedroom, there can be a minimum of 3 people with a maximum of 5 to 8. KHA must select your payment standard as follows. If you select a unit that is the same size as your voucher and the rent plus utilities equal or exceeds the payment standard, KHA will use the payment standard for your voucher. If you select a unit that is smaller than your issued voucher size, the KHA will use the payment standard equal to the number of bedrooms in the unit you have selected. If the gross rent, asking rent of owner plus utilities of the unit you select is less than the payment standard, KHA will use the gross rent as the payment standard. On page 6 we talk about rent calculation. The process of determining your rent portion is called rent calculation. The Housing Authority begins this process determining your annual adjusted income. Your income left over, all approved expenses and deductions have applied, and it provides a sample for you to follow along. On page 7, you will find a sample of your affordability. Choosing an affordable unit. To find an affordable unit, you must complete the following 5 steps. These steps are found on page 8. Number 1, find out how much the landlord is asking for the rental. 2, inquire about the type of heating in the unit and what utilities will be required for you to pay. 3, using the utility sheet provided in your packet, add together the cost of the utilities that will be your responsibility. 4, add the cost of the utilities to the contract rent. 5, compare the gross amount to the maximum allowable gross rent. If the costs are lower than the amount on the last line on page 7, you can afford the unit. This has also provided an example for you. Information to owners is on page 9. Important points to remember. If the unit you have selected fails inspection, continue with your housing search. The Housing Authority will issue you another request for tenancy approval form. 2. An inspection can take 15 days from the time the completed RFTA received. Depending on the volume of request, if you live in the unit you want to be inspected, we will schedule the inspection with you and not the landlord. Do not sign a lease until your unit passes inspection. Pages 10 through 13 are a sample of the HAP contract. HQS inspections, page 14. Section 8 assistance cannot start until a rental unit passes the inspection. This is not a complete list of HQS requirements, but does contain the most common reasons that units fail inspections: fire prevention, electrical, appliances, plumbing and heating, windows and doors, and structural. We'll be skipping over to page 16 since page 15 has already been addressed. Page 16, maintaining your housing choice voucher. Family obligations under CFR 982-551. Included but not limited to: the family must supply any information that the Housing Authority or HUD determines is necessary, disclose any and verify social security numbers, any information supplied by the family must be true and complete, allow the Housing Authority to inspect the unit at reasonable times after reasonable notice. The family must give written notice to the Housing Authority if any member of the family moves out of the unit within 12 days of the change. Flipping over to page 17, the family must not sublease or sublet the unit. The family must not assign the lease or transfer the unit. The family must not have or own any interest in the unit. Please note, the Kennewick Housing Authority does not recognize marijuana for medicinal or recreational purposes in federally subsidized housing. Page 18, grounds for termination of housing assistance. Some of the points that haven't been addressed are: breach of repayment or fail to pay outstanding debts to any housing authority for amounts paid to an owner under a HAP contract for rent, damage to the unit, security deposits, or any other amounts owed by the family. 11. Have informed us of your absence for a verified health reason related to your household member under assistance, but you have been absent for over 180 days. You have missed 2 scheduled appointments. Evictions can result in denial of future assistance from any and all federally assisted housing programs. If you or a member of your household has a disability and as a result of that disability you need a change in housing authority rules or policies that would give you an equal opportunity to participate in one of our housing assistance programs, or a change in the way the housing authority communicates with you or gives information, you may ask for a reasonable accommodation. On this page, you will find full details on doing so. Page 20, informal hearings. What is an informal hearing? A hearing is a meeting to determine whether the housing authority has made decisions about your family's participation in the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program that follow the law, HUD regulations, and housing authority policies. You have 12 business days from the date you are notified of an action with which you disagree to request a hearing in writing. Page 21 talks about fair housing and gives you a phone number and a website to which you can contact if you feel like you have been a victim of discrimination. Page 22 talks about portability. Subject to eligibility requirements, your Housing Choice Voucher is a portable document that you may take with you to any location that administers a Section 8 voucher program. This page gives you some bullet points on how to see if you're eligible or how you may not be eligible, things to remember, and neighboring housing authorities. Page 23 to 25 talks about annual and interim recertifications, their process, and the time limits that you have and that housing specialists have for them to be completed. The next packet is your rights as a tenant in Washington State. This is here for your information and your resource if you are having issues with your landlord.
Fraud. Is it worth it? No. Why, you ask? You may be evicted from your apartment or house. You can be required to repay all overpaid rental assistance received. You can be fined up to $10,000, imprisoned for up to 5 years, prohibited from receiving future assistance, subject to state and local government penalties. Please do not fraud. We want you to maintain your housing assistance, and just for your information, we have had other tenants who have gone to jail as well as have been required to repay all of the overpaid subsidy. Again, please don't fraud. We want you to maintain your housing.
The next pamphlet in your packet is the lead-based paint information called Protect Your Family from Lead-Based Paint in Your Home. This is for your general information to look through and review. Potentially, houses and apartments built before 1978 may have lead-based paint. Please review this information. The next piece of information in the packet is called a good place to live. This is information that the inspector is going to be looking at when they come out to inspect your unit. It covers things like fire alarms, CO2 detectors. It's broken down by the units, bedrooms, living room, outside the unit, bathrooms, and it goes step by step of what is looked for at the time of the inspection. The next packet that we have in the packet for you to review is, are you a victim of housing discrimination? Fair housing is your right. If you've been denied housing rights, you may have experienced unlawful discrimination. HUD takes discrimination very seriously. This packet provides you information on how to contact HUD and file housing discrimination forms, and HUD will address the forms in a timely manner once they are received.
My name is Hillary Ells, and I'm the Family Self-Sufficiency Coordinator here at the Kennewick Housing Authority. The Family Self-Sufficiency Program assists families who are wanting to achieve economic independence. The program is offered to all current participants, and participation is voluntary. Families who participate in the program set goals that they want to achieve within a 5-year time frame that leads to self-sufficiency. Goals may include education, specialized training, job readiness, and placement activities, and personal finance management. Goals for each participating family member are set out in an individual training and services plan that is attached to the FSS contract of participation. A fantastic benefit to participating in the FSS program is the FSS escrow account. When families successfully meet their goals and contract terms, the family becomes eligible to receive any accrued escrow funds that were credited to the family's escrow account throughout their participation in the program. The amount credited to the family's FSS escrow account is based on increases in their earned income during FSS program participation. If you are interested in seeking and maintaining employment and eventually becoming self-sufficient, please contact me, Hillary Ells, KHA's FSS Program Coordinator, for more information and how to apply. In your briefing packet on the right side, you'll find a piece of paper with more information on the FSS program.
Notice of occupancy rights under the Violence Against Women Act. To all tenants and applicants, the Violence Against Women Act, VAWA, provides protections for victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. VAWA protections are not only available to women, but are available equally to all individuals, regardless of sex, gender identity, or sexual orientation. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, is a federal agency that oversees that KHA Housing Choice Voucher Program is in compliance with VAWA. This notice explains your right under VAWA. A HUD-approved certification form is attached to this notice. You can fill out this form to show that you are or have been a victim of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking, and that you wish to use your rights under VAWA. The next packet is Fair Housing, Equal Opportunity for All. The purpose of this brochure is to summarize your right to fair housing. The Fair Housing Act and HUD's regulations contain more detailed and technical information. If you need a copy of the regulations, contact the HUD Fair Housing Office nearest you. See the list of HUD Fair Housing offices on pages 7 through 10. Please visit hud.gov/fairhousing for more information. All the information on this video briefing is published in good faith and for general information purposes only. Kennewick Housing Authority does not make any warranties about the completeness, reliability, and accuracy of this information. All clients are responsible for reading all of the information provided and contacting their housing specialist with any questions or concerns.